Welcome to another edition of Chief Sales Executive Television. I'm Rick Longnecker, your host. Today our topic is, why do small companies and startups struggle with sales execution? Let's start off by defining the attributes and the metrics that would suggest to us whether we're struggling or not struggling with revenue growth. The elements and the metrics on the screen are some of the metrics we would look at that would tell us if we're in or out of control with revenue growth. Over the past 20 years, we found a common set of reasons why companies struggle with revenue growth across each stage of the company life cycle. Let's explore what this set of reasons looks like. First, we find that companies that are struggling with revenue growth do a poor job of linking their sales forecast to market realities. In short, we find that companies set revenue goals too high relative to market realities of their ability to gain market share and share of wallet in the market. So it's critical that if we're going to keep from struggling and be successful at revenue growth, we need to match our forecasting of revenue growth in connection with market realities. The second thing we see companies struggling with is not validating that their offerings are understood and valued by buyers in the marketplace. Companies that struggle with revenue growth tend to create products and services and push them into the marketplace, expecting sales organizations to work magic and sell products when their story and messaging, the sales call approach, the collateral, the pricing models have not been piloted, have not been refined before they start hiring sales manager and salespeople. It's critical to validate that offerings are understood and valued by buyers through their purchasing before hiring sales managers and salespeople. The third area they struggle in is in implementing sales infrastructure, processes, policies, and procedures in the wrong order. Companies that struggle with revenue growth more often than not start off by hiring sales managers and people and then expecting those managers and salespeople to figure out the sales process, the sales technology, and how to position the products and services and offerings in the marketplace. The end result, wasted time, wasted money, wasted morale, wasted careers, and little to no revenue growth. The fourth area we see companies that are struggling with revenue growth, struggling themselves to manage, is the set of expectations they place on sales managers. We have a very high expectation that sales managers can multitask to make sales calls to cover their cost while simultaneously hiring salespeople to grow revenue, while at the same time designing and installing sales management practices to manage those salespeople, while building sales forecasting to predict growth, while crafting sales and market strategy to scale the business. And last but not least, while all of that's going on, we expect sales managers to install sales technology, CRM systems, phone systems, online collaboration systems. While all of that is going on, we also want them to manage office space and or home-based salespeople. It's too much to expect of a sales manager, especially when you're only paying them between $125,000 and $200,000 a year when they're not skilled and don't have the experience at building this type of infrastructure simultaneously. The fifth area we see companies that struggle with revenue growth struggling with is expecting new salespeople to instantly memorize products and services and pricing models, instantly build their sales call approach, the collateral, their sales presentations, instantly schedule sales calls, instantly qualify buyers, instantly begin proposing and negotiating and closing sales deals. And last but not least, we want them to instantly keep from disrupting managers and technical experts with countless questions about products, services, features, functions, pricing models, and methods of delivering our products and services. This is way too much to expect of new salespeople. This is an area of deep concern for companies that are struggling with revenue growth. Number 6, we find that companies that are struggling are overlooking the impact of technical knowledge transfer to salespeople. There seems to be a myth that we can go out and hire industry expert salespeople that bring market knowledge, business acumen, and some seasoned selling skills to the table, and they will magically generate revenue for us. The bad news is that's not real life, because in real life, those seasoned industry veterans don't understand your company's products and services, pricing, features, applications, and they don't understand your company's internal policies, procedures, your systems, your history, your culture. So whether we're hiring college graduates or whether we're hiring seasoned sales veterans from the industry, both of those sales folks are going to struggle if we do not have good control of technical knowledge transfer to those salespeople and sales managers. The 7th area we see folks struggling is that they're not concentrating their limited resources for maximum impact. We see, especially in small companies and startups, we see companies going after share of wallet at the exact same time they're trying to expand market share, and they're trying to do this with very limited resources. Limited money, limited time, limited skill, limited people, limited systems. Companies that do not struggle, companies that excel at revenue growth, focus in one of these areas at a time, or possibly 2, and that's it. They don't try to do all 4. The 8th area we see folks struggling with is using technology in a way that disenables salespeople. One of the most common struggles that you see with companies that are having difficulty with revenue growth is they are caught in a blizzard of sales technology deployment, especially in the area of CRM and Salesforce automation technology, where they're deploying systems that cause salespeople to waste time and energy entering data into systems rather than using automation to automatically enter that data and feed information to salespeople. Number 9 is we see companies using the wrong sales channel to reach target markets. Once again, in startups and small companies, we see examples all the time where people are using field-based sales reps, which are very high cost with limited flexibility, going after tier 4 and tier 5 small and extra small size customers. So it's critical that we match up our sales channel with our buyer profiles so we can match the right amount of resource in the sales channel to extract revenue value from the buyer profiles. The 10th area we see people struggling with is using a fragmented approach to sales management practices. We see more often than not companies using hiring and onboarding practices that are completely at odds with coaching techniques, that are also at odds with compensation, rewards, and recognition, and at odds with the performance evaluation systems. These cause morale breakdowns, confusion in management, and frustration in salespeople that causes them to slow down and stop working to focus internally on internal processes rather than externally on the marketplace. Now, we also found that there's a major complicating factor for companies that are struggling with revenue growth, and that is a thing called the blizzard of advice from trusted advisors, accountants, lawyers, bankers, investors, private equity firms. We see companies inundated with a blizzard of advice of things they should do to improve sales effectiveness and revenue growth. We find companies that are struggling to grow revenue are implementing process improvements across the spectrum from sales structure, sales people, sales process, and sales technology, which overwhelms the organization, frustrates the organization, and burns the organization out, and it numbs the organization, especially salespeople, to change. What's our conclusion? The conclusion after 20 years is that more often than not, small companies and startup leaders are caught in a do loop of randomly implementing revenue growth processes, procedures, policies, and systems that waste time, money, morale, and careers with little to no revenue impact. It's a treadmill. So how do we solve this problem? Well, we found over the years of working with clients across 30 industries that there is a right sequence to design, pilot, install, update, manage, and merge the sales infrastructure required to build sustainable revenue growth year after year. We've captured this sequence in the Chief Sales Executive workflow that starts at the customer and begins first and foremost at sales call execution, because the sales call is where the buyer resides and where the cash register rings and where all of our sales infrastructure and processes need to be aimed so that we can gain effectiveness, efficiency, and predictability and bring precision to sales execution. To learn more about the Chief Sales Executive workflow and how it solves the problems for companies struggling with revenue growth, simply go to chiefsalesexecutive.com.